Hey there, self-care warriors. Welcome back to Self-Care Haven. Today I wanted to speak about a topic that has a lot of controversy surrounding it. And this topic is the narcissist behavior deliberate? Is it deliberately manipulative? When you have someone who is so self-absorbed and entitled and has no empathy to the point where they cannot consider other people's feelings, is their manipulative, cruel behavior still deliberate? Are they still accountable for their behavior? The short answer is hell yes. They are absolutely accountable. And if their behavior was not deliberate and manipulative, consider this. If it wasn't manipulative, if it wasn't deliberate, if it wasn't intended to destroy their victims, they would have no problem accepting accountability. They would have no problem in changing their behavior. They would have no problem in saying, hey, I own this action that I did that hurt you. I see that you're hurt. I empathize with you and I want to make up for it and I want to change. And they might do that temporarily, of course, as a ploy to still keep you hooked in the relationship. But often what they'll do is they'll try to maneuver out of that situation where they've abused you so they don't have to accept accountability for their actions. So if they truly weren't doing this deliberately, they would have no problem accepting accountability. But instead they choose to gaslight, they choose to project, they choose to put you down even further, and they choose to continue to do that abusive behavior again and again, if not overtly, then covertly this time, so that you won't catch on as quickly. So remember that if a narcissist behavior was not deliberate and manipulative, they would not be able to target the same exact wounds and the same insecurities that you've confided in them about. They would not attack those very things. If it was completely unconscious, they would not be consciously plotting to hurt you where it really hurts already. So the people who say that, oh, it's totally unconscious and they were traumatized and this and that, it's like, why are you spending your energy trying to justify the abusive actions of these predators when you could be using that same energy to support a survivor who has actually been destroyed or damaged by these types of individuals, these types of toxic individuals? We have to think about this victim blaming and victim shaming stance, because the researchers who have actually worked with abusers, and I'm talking about researchers like Lundy Bancroft and George Simon, and Robert Hare, they all knew that these types of manipulative behaviors were deliberate and cruel. And so we have to remember that the narcissist is a nobody who lives off of the energy of other people. They take pieces that they find from other people's identities and personas. They take pieces that they find in the media, and they use these pieces to put together a patchwork of a false mask that they wear to the world. And that false mask is in fact deliberate. When they put together these pieces, they are imitating others. They are imitating people with compassion and empathy that they do not themselves have or possess. They are stealing other people's ideas. They are taking on personas that are really very different from their private persona, the real self that they expose to their victims. This mismatch between the public and the private persona is another identifier of how much the narcissist behavior is deliberate, because you cannot switch that quickly from your false mask to your true self in the public, if you're fearing exposure and suddenly, let's say, someone else comes into the interaction. You suddenly switch your mask. First you're abusing the victim, and then suddenly you're this charming, non-abusive self. That mask cannot switch that quickly if your abusive behavior was not deliberate and if you did not have any control over your abusive behavior. So let's stop the pity party for narcissistic abusers, because survivors are the ones who need our empathy and compassion and support and validation. Survivors are the ones whose lives have been destroyed by these individuals, and survivors are the ones who are still enduring the effects of complex trauma because of abusive relationships with these predators. Whether it's a narcissist, a sociopath, or a psychopath, these toxic individuals, they deliberately prey on us for supply. In fact, I would go as far as to say that they are even more codependent than their victims, because honestly, they are dependent on us to give them what they really need in life. They cannot generate their own energy, their own success. They have no real talents of their own or their own skill sets. And if they do, they often still copycat other people. And they are incredibly entitled. They feel incredibly entitled to the success that their victims experience. And they have that pathological envy that inspires them to go out and try to destroy the lives of other people who are succeeding and are doing great work and are actually hard workers. In fact, the narcissist is a coward. What are they doing with their lives? Not much of anything. And even if they hold positions of power, remember that they're still nobodies, because they still have to depend on the energy of their victims in order to feel big. They cannot feel big on their own. They have to feed on the energy of their victims. They are nobodies. And that is the way that we should see them. They are nobodies until we make them somebodies. And until they make themselves somebodies by getting the victim hooked through their abuse. But think of how sick and sad that is. The fact that someone has to actually abuse someone and put them down in order to have any type of power. They're totally dependent on their victims. And they cannot generate any of their own accomplishments, talents, skill sets, feeling of, worth and value. They are completely dependent. And that doesn't mean that we should feel sorry for them, because they are still making that conscious decision to use whatever feelings they have towards themselves in order to put down other people and bring themselves up and raise themselves up. And they are truly nobodies. So remember this, they are nobodies. And if you have been going throughout your life thinking that the narcissist or narcissists in your life were somebody's, just remember, they are insignificant. They cannot create their significance without you. They cannot generate their own power, because if they were generating their own power, they would have no reason to disempower others. They would have no reason to try to put down others, and they would have no reason to try to destroy their victims if they didn't feel the victims were getting ahead in life. So I hope this video helps to inspire, motivate, and inform. What narcissists do is in fact deliberate. You can see that through their projection, their gaslighting behaviors, which are used to escape accountability. You can see that through their sudden switch of masks. They can switch from their false mask to their true self, and they can switch from their true self to their false mask in a second. That is completely conscious behavior. That kind of behavior is done with intent. It is done to escape accountability. It is done to preserve the false mask, and it is done deliberately in order to have the upper hand and to make the victim look crazy. And so we have to remember that. If you feel yourself feeling sorry for the narcissist, feeling sorry for an abuser, or if you encounter someone who's trying to police your feelings towards your own perpetrator, remember, it's almost like asking a rape victim to forgive his or her rapist, as if to say, hey, this rapist had trauma in their background, so you have to forgive them and feel compassionate. No. This person had an impact on you, whether it was emotional, psychological, physical, spiritual, financial. This person had a severe impact. They deliberately tried to destroy you, and you have every right to be angry about that injustice, and you have every right to hold that perpetrator accountable for their actions, trauma or no trauma. As we can see, there's still no clinical verdict on whether or not a narcissist actually has trauma in their background. I personally believe that narcissists can come from a variety of backgrounds. So whether they were traumatized, whether they were spoiled as children, it doesn't matter to me, because they are still making that conscious decision to continue to abuse people. And us abuse survivors, us survivors of narcissistic abuse, we don't go out of our way to abuse others because of our wounds, and we have far more wounds in adulthood than the narcissistic abuser will ever have, honestly, because of the impact that the narcissist left on us. So it is truly not fair of anyone to try to police a victim's feelings towards their perpetrators. And it's definitely not based in reality or research in terms of whether or not the narcissistic abuser is doing this unconsciously. That is a complete myth, and it is a myth that I would love to destroy and dismantle, one video and one blog post and one book at a time. So I hope this video helps to inspire, validate, inform, and let me know your thoughts on the fact that a narcissist is truly a nobody, and I'll talk to you very soon. Until then, take care.